Hello, students. Welcome back. I am here on May 4th to talk to you about, May the 4th be with you. I'm here to talk to you about oligarchy. That is going to be the power structure that we're going to be looking at for this week, and you'll be learning about. We're following a similar structure where you're going to learn about the topic, you're going to learn about oligarchy, you're then going to complete a little chart and then also a Quizlet. And then there's an extension activity that I put together talking about the Soviet Union and looking at autocracy, which you've learned from autocracy and oligarchy, and you can see that case study. So the word oligarchy comes from the Greek words oligos, meaning few, and archo, meaning to rule or command. This is actually a great time to take a few notes. So if you have a piece of paper and a pencil, you could take a few notes to prepare yourself for some of the work we're going to be applying with oligarchy. So meaning few and archo meaning to rule or command. So in an oligarchic government, there's a small group of elite or privileged people that hold all the power. This group could be associated with any of the following affiliations. It could be royalty, it could be a group of wealthy, privileged people. It could be people connected through family ties. It could have to do with education. It could be a corporation, a group, business group. It could be a religious group, right? Or it could be military. Oligarchies, there are two types, so we want to understand both types. They sometimes have been synonymous with aristocracies, where rule is by members of the noble or upper class, or plutocracies, where rule is by the wealthy members of a community. Neither wealth nor noble birth is necessary for belonging to the privileged group that rules an oligarchy. These are just the most common types, okay? In many cases, these governing elites can be hereditary by birth, with a few prominent families passing their influence from one generation to the next. There are official and unofficial oligarchies. So there's plutocracy. If you look to the right there, you can see a little graph that kind of breaks it down. So oligarchy, small group in power; plutocracy, power by the wealthy; aristocracy, power by the noble, by birth through nobility. And then official or unofficial. So official would be an elite group is given power by the law. The law may give only nobility the right to vote, right? Or a theocratic oligarchy, which you learned about theocracy, may be ruled by a group of religious leaders. So only religious leaders would have the right to rule. In unofficial oligarchies, those with more resources are able to gain political power, despite laws that allegedly treat all citizens equally. So there may be a constitution, there may be a document that says that, okay, this is a democracy, it's something else, but in fact, it actually operates as an oligarchy. So there's some gray areas. Oligarchy is one of the most nuanced forms of government when we talk about it, because usually people don't say that's an oligarchy. Usually they'll say that's that's a monarchy, that's a democracy. But usually people aren't pointing a finger going that's oligarchy. So how does it mingle with other systems? So if we look at capitalism, for instance, it sometimes can be argued or described as an oligarchy. They would say that in a capitalist society, economic, cultural, and political power rests in the hands of the capitalist class. For example, many political scientists and economics argue that the United States is an oligarchy, not a democracy, as I kind of alluded to a little bit in the last slide. So this video, so if you want to watch this video, it argues that there have been oligarchies in the United States. So it talks a little bit about that. So you could watch that and learn a little more about how that might work. Communist states may also be perceived as oligarchies. It's where the state is ruled by a class with special privileges, While communism in theory is not an oligarchy and is about power being held by the working class, there are several examples of leaders warping a communist nation into an oligarchy or even an autocracy. And then the last one is socialism. This term is like people use it interchangeably with communism often, though they're not the same. So I would suggest you check out this link to learn a little bit more about it. Okay. There are definitely differences between communism and communism, socialism, but I'm not going to get into all the details. Just know that these are three different systems, either economic or government systems, which have connections to oligarchies, and where oligarchies can be seen within them often, right? They can exhibit themselves in these systems. Really, in practice, almost all governments, whatever form, are run by a small minority of members, and it is necessary to further examine the ways in which these individuals acquire, retain their power in order to correctly understand whether a system of government is an oligarchy. So I'm not going to go through these terms again, as you are aware of them from last week, but I am going to just mention that oligarchies can exist within a totalitarian system, right? Authoritarian system, or a fascist system. So there can be a small group that really holds that power, keeps that authority, and administers it in a totalitarian way or a fascist way. So that is certainly a possibility when we talk about oligarchies also. Important terms to think about that you just learned. Okay, elite, you want to remember that. Those are the people who have the most wealth and status. They're the group, the successful people who are running the show. Oligarchies can be official or unofficial, right? They can be based on the group could be aristocratic or plutocratic, right? Meaning either they're holding it through hereditary means, right? They've been passed down through birth, or they've holding it because of wealth. And then obviously we just talked about capitalism, communism, and socialism. And the idea, is that each of those potentially have oligarchy, have an oligarchy that's ruling things. Here's a great definition for socialism, which wasn't in the other slide: a political and economic theory of social organization, which advocates that the means of production, distribution, exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. So a lot of people think socialism is the government. It could be the government, the local government. It could be the national government. So we want to think about it, how wealth and how that's distributed politically also. So again, pretty nuanced also, but capitalism, communism, and socialism. Okay, stop blabbering there. All right, so your work will now be, after watching those videos and thinking about these slides, is what kind of benefits to the individual and harms to the individual might an oligarchy have, and what kind of benefits or harms to the society might an oligarchy have. So take a few moments to answer those things. And then when you're done, pretty much the same protocol as last week. You'll complete the Quizlet, okay, for oligarchy, which is at this link here, okay? Oops. And then you will complete these questions that are in the discussion post for this week. So what is one of the benefits you came up with oligarchy, and what is one of the harms? All right. Okay, well, email me if you have questions, and come to my office hours.